Well, while the ground is kind of firm, I went ahead and moved this thing. It was way back there, but I just went ahead and drove it with the leak over onto this kind of grassy spot, so that way when it rains and I'm still fixing it, I don't have to stand in mud. But one of the first steps is going to be to take this floor panel out. And why is that in here? Why would this be in here? I don't know. But anyway, so I gotta take the floor out. Alright, more than likely, whatever hose broke up there, it leads to somewhere in there, so I think I'm probably going to take the seat out. I usually have to do that every time I need to make a repair. Take the seat out, take this out to get underneath that, and take all that out. We'll see. Well, I normally use a long extension to get this bolt out for the seat, but that's at my house, so I kind of just put this together. It should work. I gotta take this piece off, and then I'll probably pressure wash. Alright, let's see what we can see. This is kind of tough. It's one of these hoses here, and they run around there and into there. Alright, I got my pressure washer all hooked up to my truck, and the reason I want to get this thing pressure washed today is because if it rains or something tonight, which it probably will, then I don't know when I'll be able to drive my truck out here. And I guess in theory I could start this thing up and drive it and just let it dump oil, but I'd rather not do that. So that's why I wanted to get it pressure washed at least today. And so it is my recommendation, if you are wanting to buy a machine like this, don't buy a Bobcat, because the only guarantee that you have with a Bobcat is that it will leak. This thing has always leaked, and I think the issue is all these fittings, they're basically, this end is a JIC, but the other end, it's like a Bobcat specialty fitting. It looks like JIC, but they cut a groove into it and they put an O-ring on it. So when you tighten that down, if you tighten it just a little bit too hard, because, well, you're probably going to do it, because can you fit a torque wrench in there? No. So you tighten it too hard and you split the O-ring, and then it leaks. And then you try to tighten it more and you deform the fittings, and then you have to replace both sides. So typically what happens is you replace the Bobcat fitting with a JIC. But it's just such a pain in the ass. And then part of it might be just because this machine's so old. But another reason why I like to pressure wash these before I work on them is because you do not want to get any of this dirt and shit. You do not want to get it in the hydraulic system. there are filters that would probably catch it, but you just don't want to take that chance of ruining a hydraulic pump or something. I've had to replace the hydraulic pumps on this thing. There's like 3 of them, and they're bolted together in a series, and I think it was like $2 grand to replace those, and it didn't really even help that much. I did that because this thing just didn't have a lot of power, but it's more than likely related to these joysticks because they leak. So when they leak, it's not providing adequate pressure to the hydraulics supposed to control. It's a can of worms, really, whenever you're working on this thing, because all these joysticks, I think they have like 8 lines going to each joystick because for every direction you have to, well, it's complicated, but so there's like 8 lines over here, 8 lines over there, and they go down to these blocks. There's a block here, there's a block there, there's a block there, here's a block. I think this one's the track control block, and I actually think there's one like way back there so it's really not fun to work on these things. So I don't even remember what I was talking about, but yeah, that's why I'm gonna pressure wash. I'm gonna do all this shit today. Alright, I gotta pressure wash as much as I'm going to for right now. I stopped filming because there was just oil and dirt and just shit going everywhere, so, and I'm kind of under a time constraint right now too. I didn't want to spend all the time trying to film, but alright, so this is the hose that's leaking. The oil is coming through the sleeve here, and I replaced this thing, but it was probably 15 years ago, but I remember doing it, and I remember it was a real pain in the ass, and I'm thinking it's like, oh, man, I think it's like that one right, can't even get a point at it. I think it's that one right there. So I might need to take all this stuff off too. We'll see. Alright, it's day 2, and I just did some more disassembly. I got a lot more stuff out of there. I got the cover for the joystick out of there, and I took the plate that holds the hoses down, and this is the hose that's leaking. I'm kind of wondering if that right there where the bolt went through is the source of the trouble, but it doesn't really matter because you can't fix the center of a hose without, well, I guess you could put a splice in there, but you're still dealing with a 25-year-old hose, so there's, actually it might be older than that. No, it's 21 years old. So it's best just to replace the hose, and I think it's gonna be either this one, this one, this one, or this one. These two here are track controls. This one is the auxiliary bucket attachment. This one distributes oil to the auxiliary, but yeah, just this one and this one are for the bucket booms. So yeah, it's one of them. Maybe this won't be as bad, but I'm gonna pressure wash it again. I'm not gonna video that because there's 40-mile-an-hour winds today. That's the thing that I hate about this. We'll have that's like a standard day, 40-mile-an-hour winds, and it's like probably 300 days out of the year. And what's really weird is we can have days where it's -40, and we can have days where it's 110. This is it's just absolute hell of a place to live in. It doesn't make any sense why people chose to settle here. This is all, it's all swampland and just been drained, and so that's always a struggle throughout the history of the place, just trying to keep the land drained. So you get one rain and this is all just flooded. That's just the way it is. That's why I call it the wasteland. And here's the 3 hydraulic pumps I was talking about. They're really dirty, so you can't really see them, but here's 1, 2, 3. You know, I think that whole spiel is like $2,000. I don't know if I want to replace this hose today or just pull it, because it's Easter and I want to go home and eat a wrap or something. But I figured I would take this opportunity to kind of explain why this machine breaks so much. At least this is my theory, and it's probably accurate. But a lot of people, they don't really know what this machine is. This machine is not a jackhammer. A lot of people think it's a jackhammer, but I've carried around jackhammers for decades, and I cannot put this machine on my shoulder. I've tried, but I just can't do it. You can get a jackhammer for it. You would take the bucket off, and it would attach there, and then it would hook to the auxiliary hydraulics. But as the machine sits, it is not a jackhammer. So what people do when they're in this thing, and it's not digging hard enough or deep enough for them, they will take that joystick there, that one controls the boom, and yeah, it'd be that one. It's like second nature to me, you know, I just do it. But they'll take this joystick and they'll go like this, you know, and then at the end of the day they're complaining that their shoulder hurts because they sat there and did that all day. But when you pull that joystick back, it takes this boom and it goes up like this. And this machine, it's a pretty light machine. It's about 7,000 pounds. So all that weight up there, when you swing it back, you can actually get it up there and stop it. And then the machine, the whole machine, it'll pivot on that track there, kind of rounded. The whole machine will go up like that, and then it'll come crashing down. And then what that does is it puts the teeth about a ½ inch deeper. And that's everything to everyone. You know, if you just lightly use it just like it's intended, you'll dig so much. But if you crash it down, you'll get a ½ inch more, and that, you know, you might get home at 3:30 instead of 3:35 or something, because you made it work faster. But and what that does is it breaks the machine. It shocks the hoses. That's why hoses burst. It breaks pins, and all these bushings are just gone. So it's just a pin in a hole. That's, you've probably seen in the videos, it's all just wobbling around. That's just from all the misuse. So you crash the bucket down and you shock the pin. This thing probably has a bunch of cracked pins. And the thing that frustrates me is no one gives a shit. No one cares if they break it, because if they break it, that's just a day off. You know, they can just dump it off here and I'll eventually fix it. So that kind of frustrates me a lot, but in my opinion, that's why this machine breaks, and I think I'm right about it. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you have a machine like this and it's yours and you care about it, don't treat it like shit. Don't let anyone get on it and just run into the ground, because that's exactly what they'll do. Everyone thinks they're an expert. Everyone thinks they can jump in here, and after half an hour of running, and when they get good at swinging, they can just do whatever they want with it. They can run into walls, they can tear down houses, they can do whatever, but it just doesn't work that way. When you got a machine, you got to know what it is and what it's capable of and what it's not capable of. And if she's too small, that's just what it is. Maybe you need to get a bigger one, or maybe you need to plan appropriately. Maybe you need to plan that you're not going to be able to dig a 12-foot deep trench in a half an hour. You know, maybe it's going to take 5, and that's just what it is. So, I mean, I do have a lot of dissatisfaction for this Bobcat brand because I explained it in another video about these fittings having a groove cut into it. I don't know if that'll make the cut or not. I think it probably will, but so, you know, I'm just not a fan of Bobcat, and I understand that the machines that came after this, they changed the body style, and they took all this hydraulic stuff and they put it up there and they made it more accessible, which is good, but I guess I just don't expect machines to break down as much as they do. Alright, so screw it. I'm going to go ahead and try to pull this hose. I got my Sunex tools, angle wrenches. I bought these specifically for working on this machine, so I'm going to get to it. Usually 7/8 and 1 inch. Wow, I have to get a hammer. Alright, so I was just gonna go get some longer wrenches, but someone's had their sticky fingers in my toolbox again. I always keep 2 of every wrench in there. I have 1 15/16, I should have 2 of them, and no 1 inch wrenches, so I'm gonna just have to struggle with this, try to make it work. Figuring I can maybe doesn't fit. This is the part I hate, just spilling oil, trying to do something to stop it. That should work. Let's stick that in there. Alright, I got these pliers, figure I can grab the hose, and now I got a big screwdriver. Okay. show the stupid proprietary fittings. Actually, that one's hard to see. I'll show on this one. You see the little O-ring right here. It's a Bobcat fitting. All right. All right, I pulled that sleeve off. This is the end that was up on the boom, and it looks like it was right where that bolt went through. That's what did it. Well, I got some hoses. I didn't get them made, someone else did, so I didn't get to record anything. But I got 2 of them, so hopefully I'm going to replace both the hoses of that cylinder. The only difference is I got these hoses for free, so the ends, they didn't have the ends, the same ones. This is the old one. It just got cut off and a new end put on, and then another hose made for it. But I've looked at it and I think that these will work okay. So this one here is the other one I'm hoping to replace, but this is the one that blew, that it went to this. And as is right now, they go over these control levers, but with those shorter 90s, they're gonna have to go under. So one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rearrange some of these smaller hoses. I'm gonna put this one over top, and then this one here is kind of not in the right spot. A lot of these are things I replaced in the field, so they didn't get put back together right, because a lot of times when I fix stuff out in the field, I only took out this plate. I didn't take any of this stuff off, so it was very difficult, and I always just did what I could. So all right, so I found a little problem. One of these hoses has, I guess that's a inverted flare, so I'm gonna have to get this end cut off and have a GIC put on there. And then he gave me these adapters which go NPT to inverted flare, and I'll need them to be inverted flare to inverted flare, so I gotta get some of those. But I am gonna be able to pull this one hose, so I'll at least be able to get that one pulled, and then whenever I get the fitting, because I need this to be inverted flare to connect onto here. And then for the other one I'm going to replace too, it needs to be the same way. Okay, I got that one line pulled, and that actually went really well. And it was like, what, 12 hours of work to disassemble and pressure wash for a 10-minute job. But anyway, it's run a little differently. It's going up in that way, whereas originally it came up and went straight over here. But that's okay. So I think what I'm gonna go ahead and do is pull this line here and get it out of there. I don't think I'll record that. I think I will just probably end the video after this little segment, and then when I get the other line, I'll probably pick it back up again. I really have a tendency to sit here and plan out my videos and record that part, but maybe that's important for other people that are wanting to make videos to kind of, well, no, I operate under chaos, so disregard my methods. But see, I got this line here. I just got to get that one fitting, and then I'll be able to hook them together, and then that'll be good. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pull this line. That's the other one I was wanting to replace, and get it pulled out. But it sure makes a difference just getting to pressure wash this stuff. And this line here, I should probably fix that. That's not supposed to go there. That's something I changed in the field again. But it's going to this one here. I might pull it there and reroute it back around where it's supposed to go. And then these all have this sleeve on there, which it's great, but I don't know that I'm going to put it back on here. Maybe I would just on the exterior until it goes under the cab. It's a rub through sleeve, but how much longer is this machine really going to last? You know, the hoses they make now, you know, when they did the OEM ones, they were good and they lasted a long time, but they get a lot of UV damage and break down, and that's a lot of the reason why they crack. I mean, like this one here, I'm really worried about this. And the thing about this, these two hoses, we never use them. They're for the auxiliary hydraulics right there, for like a jackhammer or a thumb, and we never use them, so that's probably why that hasn't blown apart yet, but it probably would as soon as they got used. So actually I'm really happy with the way this is going. For as much frustration as this stuff always causes me, it just, you know, once I get everything cleaned up, everything goes a lot better when it's clean. I've done so many of these hose pulls and stuff. When I first showed the video of how it looked, I've done a lot of them in that condition, and it's like you're trying to pull the hose through all that crap, and you end up getting dirt in the lines, and it's probably a big part of the problem. But also another thing I noticed, like I keep noticing oil down here, so I was kind of poking around and I noticed this. So I am gonna have to pull the muffler, and then I'll have to pull this, and there's a Allen cap screw there that needs tightened up. But look at that. And what's going to happen with that, it's either going to damage the hydraulic pump or it'll damage the drive coupling. The way these operate, there's no transmission, so the flywheel is in there, and then there's a drive coupling connected to that. And what a drive coupling is, it's a weak point, and it's designed to be that way. If your hydraulic pump seizes up, then it won't damage the engine, or if the engine seizes up, well, I guess it wouldn't matter because that would just stop. But that drive coupling connects the there's a splined gear that goes into the pump, and then there's a splined opening in the drive coupling that's bolted directly to the flywheel, and that fits together. And then the material that the splines are made out of on the drive coupling is a malleable material, so I guess it's more for if the hydraulic pump seizes up, then it would just kind of shear all that apart, and then instead of it damaging, well, one way or the other, instead of it damaging this or that, it just damages the drive coupling, so you don't get them both damaged at the same time. So that's what that is. And this machine doesn't really have a ton of power, so I've never had an issue with this drive coupling. But on the skid steer, the one I use, I've replaced that thing like 8 to 10 times, because that machine, it's really, that's mostly due to operator error. A skid steer is not a bulldozer, but a lot of people treat it as one. They just like ram into stuff and they overload the bucket, and so the hydraulics are getting loaded up, and they put tension on the drive coupling, and they shear it off. And that thing, when that happens, it doesn't really take me a whole lot of time to fix it. But the problem with that machine is it's so old. It's a 94. The drive couplings have been becoming obsolete. I used to buy them, I think they were like $130, and then they were like $250, and now they're about $500. Of course, that was a couple of years ago last time I replaced it, so they might not even exist at this point. I would have to probably order it through a salvage yard that specializes in old machines, so then you're getting a used part. So the best option for that skid steer is just not to let anyone use it, because if I use it, I'm not going to use it as a bulldozer, slam it into piles and end up damaging the drive coupling. Then another issue with that skid steer is we never got a cab jack kit for it, so every time I have to make a repair, I just pull the seat out and I have to work that little opening. Whereas if I had a cab jack, I could lift the entire cab off, and it'd be amazing. I wish I had one, but you know, that's another thing that's become obsolete, so I can't even get one of those now. So I'm just going on and on. I got too much info. But yeah, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video or stop the video for now, and then maybe I'll get back. So actually that line I was fighting with, it wasn't even the right one. I was supposed to pull this one, but I got that one pulled and I realized it was the wrong one, but it's an old hose, so I'm gonna go ahead and change it. But its counterpart is this one, and this one I have replaced. So, but it was actually the when I was first diagnosing this, it was that first one I took off. That was the one that I accidentally pulled, and that's the one behind it that's already been changed. So I'll go ahead and get a new one for that anyway. So that'll be kind of nice. And I think I'm gonna pressure wash it again after I clean up all my tools. It'll be like the 5th time I've pressure washed this thing, but it really helps. It makes me feel a lot better about working on it when it's been cleaned up a little bit. So I'm gonna do that. Well, unfortunately I couldn't film all this because we have like 50-mile-an-hour winds today, so it would have been just all and all that shit, because you know it just never fucking ends. But I went ahead and pulled the muffler off. It's sitting there, and I was able to tighten this one up with an Allen wrench. I had to take all that off, and then the other side I don't want to take that off because that's a direct link to the reservoir, and the reservoir has like 4 gallons of hydraulic oil in there. So if I take those off, it's just going to come dumping out, and I don't think that there's any way for me to stop that from happening, so I'm just not going to do it. So I tried to grab the cap screw as well as I could and just cranked on it. I mean, the thing's on there tight now, so hopefully that'll be good enough. I mean, this one I was able to get the Allen wrench on there and then beat it down with a hammer, so it's fairly tight. So that's about the update for now. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna do any filming today. I don't have my hoses made or anything yet, so I was expecting to have all those hoses today, but I don't. But that's the update. Okay, so that clamp was broken, so I just added another one next to it. And then well, you're probably not gonna be able to guess what I'm gonna do next. I'm sure you have no idea what I'm planning. Alright, I'm gonna pressure wash. Actually, I'm trying to see how many times I can say pressure wash in a video, because I can't say that word for shit. So I'm just gonna keep saying it over and over. Every time I do anything, I'm gonna pressure wash. So that's where I'm at. Alright, I'm going to try to be a little more cinematic. Get some shots. There's not really a lot of good places to put the camera. This is that line I just pulled. Just gonna go here. Oh, and these fittings I was talking about right there with the O-ring, they're called soft seal JIC fittings. So I did a little searching, I found that out. Maybe my opinion on them is wrong, but I haven't had no good luck with them. spot, so I gotta fight with Alright, this one, it goes to this one. It should go really well, just like the last one. The last one was just real easy. Oh, here. Pop up. This is the last hose. Okay. Fuck you, machine. But I got the hoses in there. I couldn't get the sleeves to fit over these ends, so I just can't put them on. Maybe, no, I can't buy more sleeves because I already got all connected. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be a big deal to have no sleeves on there. So I don't think I'm gonna pressure wash it again, of course, but I don't know if I'm gonna film a bunch of the reassembly. Maybe I'll get a bunch of stuff back in here and then pick up from there. Okay, I got a couple of the hoses back to where they're supposed to be. I couldn't move this one because it was too short. I tried to get it under there and it couldn't reach. And yeah, I moved quite a few things, but I just want to say I'm kind of proud of myself. I managed to do this whole job without cussing once. A lot of people can't do that. They would get really frustrated and just say the worst things you can imagine, but not me. So I gotta put the muffler back on and I'll pressure wash it once more. And then I actually found something. I don't know if I can film it, but there's a broken wire here. I should probably fix that. It looks like it's for an oil sensor, so it would make sense to fix. So that's that. I just got done with like the final pressure washing before reassembly, so it's looking pretty good. Hopefully I will never have a hose blow on it again. And it's a real shame how many of the videos I'm not going to be using or editing out. I've already got like 30 videos saved from this project, and there's just no way I can't make a 2-hour video on this thing. I still got to install the muffler. I want to let it dry out, and then I'll install the muffler. I'll start it up. Well, I'll put oil in it too, but you can't put oil in something like this with this kind of wind. It'll be all over the place, and I don't like that. So, but all in all, this really wasn't a horrible project, only because I was able to pressure wash. Otherwise it would have been. You know, despite all the sentence enhancers, that's just a part of mechanical things. I don't know of anyone that could work on something without cussing, and if they say they do, they're lying. That's just the way it is. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way everything's going. I should try to get some sort of, there's probably like a seal kit where I could take these apart and reseal everything on both joysticks. I should. Alright, I got it started up. I don't notice any leaks, but that doesn't really mean a lot because it has to get nice and hot before you start noticing stuff. But I started it up, and I was sitting there messing with the joysticks, nothing was happening. It took me a little bit to figure it out, but I finally remembered that I had disconnected this wire here. And what this does is, see right now you can use the joysticks. If this is lifted up, the joysticks don't work. There's a little switch down there. When you lift this up, it deactivates that switch and locks off the hydraulics, which is, it's a really good thing because, well, I need to fix this to make it lock into the up position, but one time I was on this and I was getting in and it was winter, so my coveralls caught the stick. It swung the bucket over and it pinned my brother against a dirt pile, and he still has trouble with his foot to this day because of that. So it's a really good idea to keep stuff like that in working order. I'm gonna shut this thing down. So I wanted to talk a little about how these joysticks work. Oh, I just stepped on my tray of sockets. All right, well, these joysticks, they have these little buttons here, and the buttons, they operate the valves that control these hoses. Now, I'm sure if you're watching these videos, you've probably operated old backhoes and stuff where you just have one lever and you go like that, and basically that lever, it kind of looks like this array of valves, except for there'd be a lever on the top that activates either this way or that way. Well, what these joysticks do, each of these little hoses, they come down here into this block or that block, and they like, okay, here's one, it feeds into that, so that hose there is connected to a joystick. Same with that one, and then there's more on the back sides. So what those joysticks do is they're just kind of like a remote access to this hydraulic distribution block, whereas in an old backhoe, that block was sitting right in front of you, and the levers were sitting right on top of it, and you would just move them back and forth to activate the valve either way. So that's kind of how that works. I mean, it's a whole lot more complicated. I mean, you see this thing here. This is a switch that reverses the joysticks, so you can either operate in ISO A and then, or ISO B, and then there's another word for the other one. It's either ISO A or ISO B, and then I suppose I could just look. Or maybe it's just A standard. I was thinking it was called ISO A. Oh, A is standard, B is ISO. I don't even know what that means. I typically run an A. I should probably try B, because sometimes you get in a machine and it doesn't have any, you can't switch it, so you need to learn how to run B really quickly. And a lot of union operators, they run B exclusively. I don't really know why. I guess it's just whatever way you learned, and that's what you stick to. But yeah, that's kind of how these joysticks work. I would assume like the center one probably feeds the joystick, the oil to it, and then, well, I'm not even gonna try to figure out exactly how it works. All I know is it's a whole lot easier than pulling levers. I feel like I'm missing something here because I got this plug here, and look how clean it is inside. I remember I unplugged something over here and I was like, oh, that was a stupid way to run it, or something like that. And I'm wondering if it's this one, or if I have something that fell down into the mess that I need to find. I'm kind of thinking that's what it is, because I remember when I disconnected that one, I think it had quite a bit of slack. So I think that there's gonna be something down there. I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch my video. I'm not planning on doing any work on this thing today. It's like 7 o'clock and I just had enough. I found that wire I was looking for. It was it made its way back into that little hole, so I kept pulling on it and it was just like kind of like that, and I just thought it was supposed to be there. But yeah, this is it. I went back and watched that video too, and I saw that it came wrapped around here and plugged in, so I found that. I think I'm just gonna put it together. I don't think I'm gonna video, because this video is already going to be extremely long, so I don't think it's really important to film the reassembly process. I'm just about done. I still have to fix that wire in there. I really need to take care of that. I just keep procrastinating. But I got pretty much everything back in except for the seat. But the seat I want to try to replace. I replaced the one in the skid steer with kind of just a generic one, and the high back seat is nice, but it's really not necessary for a machine like this, because the way I use it, I'm either in it or I'm off of it digging, and the machine's so light, if you try to lean back while you're operating, it's just going to throw you around and give you a concussion or something. So it's really not necessary to have all that seat. But I was also wanting to show the hours on this thing. It's at 4,514. That is if that works, I'm not positive. And let's see, I still need to go through and grease everything, because I did a lot of pressure washing of all these joints, so I need to come out here with a grease gun, and I'll probably have to take a lot of them out, or possibly torch them just with a propane torch. When you heat these up with a propane torch, a lot of times it reliquefies the grease in that's dried out and creating a blockage for the new grease to pass through. So you heat them up and then the grease just flows really easy. So it's a pro tip. I've been using that one for quite a few years. And I'd kind of like to get this panel off, but I think I've tried before, and I think I took all those bolts off, but then I think that there's like bolts from the backside here holding it on, and then they're behind this panel, and I think when I tried it, I kind of just gave up. Maybe if I put a little bit more effort into it, I could get it off. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I can't remember. I'm thinking I tried it, but I just couldn't get it off. I'm not gonna mess with that right now, but so yeah, this is almost done, and then after it's done, I'll be able to do that cinematic walk back, fade to the ground shot, but not yet, because I'm not done yet. So after I do the seat, then I'll do that shot. I decided not to replace the seat. I was looking at them last night, and you can get the generic ones for like 40 bucks, or you can get this replacement bottom cushion for like 120, and I'm just not really sure which way I'm gonna go. I'm kind of leaning towards just getting the cushion, or just not spending any money. That might be the best idea. But I got that switch I was talking about, the oil pressure switch, fixed, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't work, because right now if I turn the key on, this one should be lighting up, and it's not. So I don't think that switch works anyway. Maybe there's a fuse blown or something. But other than that, it's pretty much done. I've been just torching grease fittings, and most of them have taken grease, but a few of them I have to take off. So I guess that's it for the video. Now I can get back to the nightmare of editing all this footage I have. So walk out.